Kentucky Fried Chicken stands as a legendary American institution. For generations, households throughout the nation have come together at mealtime to enjoy that famous bucket of signature recipe chicken, accompanied by creamy mashed potatoes with gravy and those beloved biscuits. I'm certain I'm not alone in having fond recollections of these moments. They were once considered the gold standard of successful quick-service restaurants. Rival chains would have considered it a triumph if they could somehow capture even a fraction of that KFC enchantment. That statement feels odd today because the situation has dramatically shifted. They're no longer as dominant as they once were, seemingly less favored by customers, and economically they've experienced some challenging periods. Perhaps the clearest way to illustrate this would be examining their count of American restaurants, which has been consistently dropping for an extended period. It's challenging to identify KFC's peak era precisely. When considering revenue or restaurant count, it would be approximately 2004. For market dominance, it would be roughly the 1970s. And when discussing food excellence or patron satisfaction, there's a compelling case to be made that their finest period was during Colonel Sanders' leadership prior to 1964. There's substantial ground to cover here. It's among the most significant narratives in the quick service industry. Today, I'm going to explore KFC's transformation by examining the various ownership groups over the decades, while pinpointing what I consider the 5 primary factors contributing to their downturn. The Colonel Sanders era. The original proprietor of Kentucky Fried Chicken was naturally Colonel Sanders, an extraordinary individual who led a remarkably eventful existence. He acquired cooking skills at age 6 following his father's passing. His mother needed to work continuously to provide for the household, and young Harland, as he was called then, took responsibility for preparing meals for his 2 younger brothers and sisters. At 12 years old, conflicts with his new stepfather led him to abandon his education and leave home to find employment, initially as a farm laborer, but this evolved into numerous different positions over the subsequent 2+ decades. In 1929, he established a service station in Kentucky and transformed a storage space into a dining section where he provided patrons with chicken, vegetables, and naturally, those biscuits. The cuisine became well received, so the next year, right as he reached 40, he launched a 142-capacity restaurant and lodging establishment nearby. That's what I'd identify as the beginning of the enterprise that evolved into Kentucky Fried Chicken. During the 1950s, he devoted himself almost entirely to growing the business through franchising, establishing the initial franchise site as far as Utah in 1952. Within 4 years, he committed himself to traveling nationwide full-time to persuade individuals across America to launch their own KFC establishments. These prospective franchise operators were drawn to the distinctive red and white striped design at the locations. The proprietary recipe he had refined featuring those 11 herbs and spices, and obviously the branding that featured his own distinctive look, which has likely become more legendary than the restaurants themselves. That was certainly a condensed overview, but that's how he expanded the chain to over 600 sites nationwide before divesting everything in 1964. Hey, quick favor before we dive deeper. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the company's documentary, smash that like button and subscribe. New ownership and rapid growth. That year, an investment group purchased it for $2 million, along with a commitment to provide Colonel Sanders $40,000 annually to continue representing the company traveling around, making public appearances, and generating enthusiasm for the brand. These new proprietors proved even more successful at opening new locations than the Colonel had been. Within merely 6 years of assuming control, by decade's end, there were 3,400 KFCs operating. Competition. This brings me to the first factor behind their downturn. Competition. Just consider that figure: 3,400 locations in 1970. That's an extraordinary number. I believe it positioned them as the largest quick-service chain nationally. I can confirm they were double McDonald's size. They enjoyed a head start in virtually every market throughout the country, particularly when focusing specifically on chicken restaurants. Any other quick-service chicken restaurant you can think of today wasn't even relevant. Most hadn't even been established yet. However, as years progressed and the marketplace became more competitive, KFC has struggled to maintain pace. For instance, Boston Market emerged as a phenomenon in the 1990s by providing rotisserie chicken, and KFC responded by offering the identical product. In 2013, Chick-fil-A achieved the status of highest-grossing chicken restaurant in America, a distinction KFC had maintained for over 50 years. Chick-fil-A captured that position while operating with fewer than half the locations. The Hoobline era. In 1971, Hoobline acquired KFC for $285 million. They manufactured popular alcoholic beverages, including Smirnoff vodka. Throughout the following decade, they continued recruiting people to launch additional restaurants, reaching nearly 6,000 by the 1980s. Menu quality issues. For these first two ownership groups, clearly a major objective was expanding the brand by launching as many restaurants as possible. The way they accomplished this was by taking numerous shortcuts, finding methods to prepare food faster, more economically, and more simply, naturally compromising quality in the process. This leads to my next factor behind their decline: various problems with their menu. Who better to recognize a deterioration in food quality than the Colonel himself? Throughout the 1970s, he regularly condemned the food at the locations, asserting that numerous modifications were made to his original formulations. Regarding KFC, he stated it was the worst fried chicken he'd ever encountered. On another occasion, he declared the gravy was terrible, explaining they purchased tap water for minimal cost and combine it with flour and starch, resulting in pure wallpaper paste. He actually called the gravy wallpaper paste. In 1974, when they introduced their extra crispy chicken, he labeled it a fried dough ball attached to some chicken. KFC even unsuccessfully attempted legal action against him for these comments, so evidently some compromises were made to the menu. Another significant problem they encountered with their menu during this period were their efforts to steer it away from fried chicken, somewhat losing their essence and neglecting their primary product by highlighting other items like spare ribs or roast beef. In the late 1960s, they even attempted launching an entire subsidiary restaurant chain called Kentucky Roast Beef that expanded to numerous locations before closing completely. More ownership changes. Let me complete the ownership timeline. In 1982, KFC, along with the remainder of Hoobline, was purchased by R.J. Reynolds, America's biggest cigarette manufacturer at the time. They were expanding into consumer food products, having acquired Del Monte 3 years prior, and would acquire Nabisco 3 years afterward. After only 4 years, they sold KFC to Pepsi, who paid $850 million for a transaction that appeared logical for several reasons, but primarily because Pepsi had previously acquired Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. I've discussed all this in earlier videos if you're interested in learning more, but I should mention that KFC previously sold Coca-Cola products, and that naturally switched to Pepsi products following the acquisition. This relates directly to their menu challenges. Taco Bell and Pizza Hut were both recognized for launching successful new menu offerings, so when Pepsi assumed control, it appeared they would accomplish the same for KFC. They invested millions into a new facility dedicated to this purpose, but it never seemed to deliver results as hoped, introducing numerous unsuccessful products during that era. To conclude the timeline, in 1997, all those restaurants under Pepsi's management were separated into their own independent, publicly traded corporation called Tricon, which was subsequently renamed Yum Brands. They proceeded to acquire and divest other quick-service concepts, even experimenting with co-branding many of them within the same structure. That's where KFC remains today. Marketing struggles. Now, returning to my other list, another major factor behind their difficulties has been their marketing. When Colonel Sanders passed away in 1980 at 90 years old, they lost their spokesperson. Honestly, is there any other brand with someone more closely linked to it than KFC and Colonel Sanders? I wasn't even born during his lifetime, and I associate the two. I'm not entirely certain what they're supposed to do here, either. Attempts at different campaigns haven't been nearly as memorable or successful. They've tried reviving him in animated form during the 1990s, and more recently, as various celebrities dressed as him. That particular campaign was part of a $185 million investment in 2015 intended to inject new energy into the brand. He was initially portrayed by comedian Darrell Hammond, who felt misled by the company because he believed he would be the long-term spokesperson, but then he was replaced by Norm Macdonald, Jim Gaffigan, and numerous others, including Reba McEntire. I'm not sure it's somewhat divisive. It could be viewed as disrespectful to some degree. Perhaps it generated more attention for the brand, but I don't observe any data indicating it's been particularly effective. In 2009, KFC did achieve a successful menu item with their grilled chicken, but the marketing was poorly executed. KFC sent correspondence to the United Nations requesting recognition of a nation called Grilled Nation, consisting of the 60 million individuals who consumed their new product. Then they sent someone costumed as Colonel Sanders to the UN building, who somehow gained access to restricted zones and even greeted some significant officials there. Again, potentially a misguided, even disrespectful marketing effort. Still connected to the grilled chicken, there was another debacle where Oprah Winfrey promoted an offer on a program where viewers could download a voucher for a complimentary meal. An excessive number of people appeared, wait times were too extended, and they couldn't fulfill all the vouchers. It was additional negative publicity for KFC. Health concerns. Another potential factor behind their decline would be health content. I don't pretend to know precisely what people should or shouldn't consume, but Kentucky Fried Chicken is typically regarded as among the less healthy restaurants. The public has become increasingly health-aware over time, especially compared to their dominant years in the 1970s, and that hasn't been beneficial for business. They have the word fried in their name well. Actually, in 1991 they modified their official name to the initials KFC, so they wouldn't have that unhealthy-sounding word in their title. Shortly after, they attempted to introduce more health-conscious menu selections, which again didn't seem to gain traction particularly well. In the early 2000s, they ran a campaign suggesting KFC represented kitchen fresh chicken, seemingly another health-focused campaign. In 2006, they faced legal action for the substantial amount of trans fats on their menu, and later that year pledged to eliminate the use of trans fats in their cooking oil. The Double Down sandwich in 2010 utilized fried chicken instead of a bun, so that was ridiculed for being unhealthy. It's simply been a persistent challenge for KFC to be perceived as an at least moderately healthy alternative. Overall reputation. The final factor on my list is somewhat a compilation of remaining smaller reasons that I'm simply going to call their reputation. KFC just doesn't maintain a strong reputation at this stage. They've had a track record of troubled relationships with franchise operators. They've been continuously criticized by animal welfare organizations. Whenever they renovate or modernize their locations, it consistently seems like it's a few years overdue. Their customer service has faced criticism, and that's particularly damaging considering their primary competitor, Chick-fil-A, is recognized for their exceptionally good customer service. In 1991, when they altered the name to the initials, it sparked this enormous rumor that they had to change it because they were genetically modifying the chickens, and the resulting new creature could no longer legally be designated a chicken. To be explicit, that's false, but it's a rumor that's persisted for roughly 3 decades now. International success. So there you have it, KFC isn't quite as large or as respected as it once was, and those are what I consider to be the primary reasons behind it. Though I should mention that everything in this presentation applies to Kentucky Fried Chicken in the United States. They've actually achieved far greater success in different markets globally, specifically in China. They were the first American quick service chain to launch there in the 1980s with a substantially different menu, and have since leveraged that early advantage by becoming one of the most recognizable American brands in the nation. In 1997, their international locations exceeded the ones in America, and today represent over 80% of them. So, to be fair to KFC, most of their focus has been on foreign markets during this period, and perhaps we can view that as yet another reason they've been declining in the United States. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about KFC? Do you enjoy getting that classic bucket of chicken or one of their limited time offerings? Or would you prefer visiting one of their competitors? Has that opinion shifted over the years? Also, do you agree with my list of reasons behind their decline, or is there something you would modify about it? This was an extensive topic condensed into a brief amount of time. So if you want me to elaborate on any of it, like perhaps a video about Colonel Sanders himself, let me know. Any other thoughts you have about Kentucky Fried Chicken or anything else in this video, leave them in the comments. I'd appreciate hearing what you have to say. Thank you for watching.